Are you fulfilled in life with the things you do outside of work? For a lot of you, this fulfillment will partially be in motorbike riding. However, is it enough, and is it also the right kind of fulfillment? Welcome back to the Free Mouse MC YouTube channel, and I'm pretty sure all of you do love riding motorbikes. However, I think there needs to be some discussion about what kind of activity motorbike riding is at the end of the day to improve everyone's experience on the motorbike and also make your ride longer in life. So let's go. I kind of came up with this because I have been talking to other people who also ride motorbikes and asked them, what do you do outside of work? And then really often the answer is motorbike riding. But like, not really more. Like, there's no other activity, there's just motorbike riding. And at the same time, a discourse is kind of starting on the short form platforms on Instagram and TikTok about that basically a lot of dudes have like as hobbies just different forms of transportation like cars, motorbikes and so on. And that got me a lot to think of how do I actually ride my own motorbike and what makes me happy in motorbike riding. And I remember like I used to just go out for the sake of riding and would ride around my area, and that was fun for about a year, and then it kind of started getting dull. And the real appeal is with setting a goal beyond motorbike riding and how to do that in a way that it makes you happy. I'm going to be talking a bit more today, and it's actually the perfect lineup for a video like this because I'm currently on a motorcycle trip with my surfboard, just going from the different surf spots in the Côte de Basque area, and it's just actually a lovely example of how you can combine motorbike riding with something else to make it worthwhile, because it's a similar issue that I think the overlanding community is having when they overland with their big trucks to somewhere, and it's always the idea, why do I overland? Why do I go there? And motorbike riding suffers a bit from the similar thing. So let's get going. Well, getting on my way to the Spanish town that I'm currently staying at, let's speak out the uncomfortable truth that I'm trying to avoid. Motorbike riding is not a hobby, it's a form of transportation. I'm not saying that to diminish motorcycle riding. There can already be a lot of joy in that, from taking the off-beaten path and the challenges that come with that, to the really gorgeous landscape that you get to explore when traveling on your motorbike, and just the really special feeling of having the wind zip past you and you being so out in the open. However, even with this experience being really lovely, sooner or later the questions of where am I going and what am I going to do when I'm there are creeping in. Many people say the way is the goal, but for the way to be the goal, the destination needs to be worthwhile. That doesn't mean the goal has to be something like the top of the Himalayas or anything crazy like that. It needs to be a goal that is interesting to you, that you want to see and experience, and the motorbike ride itself there is not the activity, even though that is nice. It is the way that you get there that can be very enjoyable. This enjoyment has a lot to do with other factors in your life. I last year did a motorbike trip with just a military sleeping bag because I didn't have the money for anything else. And just the challenge of getting that done and making my way to Monaco with that was such a satisfying overarching goal. But in a way it was also basically second degree fun. And this can be a form of travel that can be very fun during a time where you discover yourself. However, it is a phase that you to some degree grow out of. And what then happens to your motorcycle that you've been doing all these trips with? Does it stay in the garage and not get used anymore? Or do you find a goal or an activity to do with your bike that is fulfilling in a different way? If you get out of that phase of motorcycle travel, boredom and purposelessness can come up. So it's important to find something fun and fulfilling on the side of the road. So for now, let's explore this beautiful Spanish town. So we now made it to the very beautiful town of Tarauz, which is a lot more lonely than the other places we've been to, like Biarritz. And I just got myself this little customizable sweet bag, which is really, really lovely. And just such a beautiful town to look around, all the little stores. While it was really hot in the town, it was lovely to get into the stores with some climate control in them and have a look at the really gorgeous surfboards. It was just so nice because I had a tough time finding any surfboards to look at during my trip until now. And it kind of got me in the mood to check on the waves again, which looked quite flat earlier, and they still do. However, I'm seeing a chance of getting something done here. I'm so happy that I got to bring my surfboard onto this motorbike trip, and life is about more than motorbike riding.
be there in your darkest days. Hold you in my arms, you're safe. Before I met you, I thought that I had been in love. Thought that I felt everything, I thought that I was done. If all of this is that love can bring, I know it's done, but
A motorbike can be the way how you get somewhere. However, what you do with that and what you do once you're there is your choice. For myself, I like combining motorbike riding with surfing, not just on vacation, but also back at home. And it can also give me new destinations for me to pursue on my motorbike. This is, by the way, the place I found to stay here in Seraut. It's a really nice hostel. And talking about an overarching goal for motorcycle riding and something that you want to do in your life that you can combine with motorbikes, I actually stumbled across something that I desire to do with my motorbike, because I, in a store, came across this book, the Surf Atlas. It's basically iconic waves all around the world, and about another point that I find interesting that I would love to ride my motorbike to, and that is surfing hinterlands. Basically, a bunch of more undiscovered waves that not a lot of people ride, and a third of this book is about Europe, and like a lot of like really special waves in the Nordic, and I would love to actually ride my motorbike there in the winter and surf these waves in the Arctic Circle in the snow. And it brought up so many ideas in my head of what I could do to make this possible and to make this journey work, of like potentially like studs for riding on snow for the tires, and there for the Interceptor 650 there is a part which is basically like World War II style snow skis that can kind of turn your bike into somewhat of a snowmobile, and that in combination with the surfboard rack going to these surfing hinterlands in Norway in the winter sounds like something that I kind of want to do. And in that way, it's really, really beautiful. I need to see if that is going to be possible, but I now bought this book because of it. And the thing is, I know some of these spots, and I could have just like, ChatGPT that stuff, but it's really lovely reading through the individual description of that the author of this specific book had and his experiences of these surf spots. Today I'm going to be making my way to San Sebastian, and with us already having talked about how you can combine motorbike riding with your hobby, let's talk about how great it can be to just use motorbike riding as a form of transportation. Motorcycle riding feels differently good if you use it in its intended way to get you from A to B. There's no greater feeling than having your motorbike for a few months as your only form of transportation. And it's something that riding every once in a while recreationally cannot match. With commuting, the majority of riding with this kind of approach that you're going to be doing is city riding. And in a way, city riding has its own beauty to it, and it attracts a different sort of person to actually pull through with this. And the beauty of seeing the motorbike as your form of transportation is it becomes a part of who you are. And people who have a motorbike as their only form of transportation are usually quite a character. And people that do that often end up being special people outside of riding motorbikes as well. Here you see my good friend Ferdia, who's currently rebuilding his dad's bike to drive to South Africa. And he's been doing this. He only had a motorbike license for over 10 years, drove all over Ireland through all the seasons, and it's a different kind of person that does this kind of stuff. He, in this example, is a book author and like lives a really special life. And I think those things are attracted by things like only riding a motorbike for your form of transportation. And in many ways, it can really change your life. And he's a really good example of that. So definitely also check out his channel. And with motorbike riding being just a form of transportation, it also leaves room for other things in life. Yes, I know it's nice, but there are other really beautiful things. Like I recently discovered skateboarding. I really love surfing. There are all the friends and people that you love in your life. And there's so many great things to do that it would be a shame to just limit yourself to motorbike riding. And at the end of the day, it turns the mundane, boring things of life into something special, because I decided here in San Sebastian, I'm just going to get some food and have a look at the city for now. However, I'm doing it on a motorbike. So with the things I've laid out until now, you can clearly see that basically the luck you feel with motorbike riding and how content you are with it, and also the kind of bike that you should get, is very heavily defined by what you enjoy with motorbike riding beyond the motorbike riding itself, when you see motorbike riding just as a form of transportation. Like for example, if you get a sports bike and never really go to the racetrack and don't engage in that kind of activity, it can make you really frustrated. And that's also one of the reasons why adventure bikes are so incredibly popular, because adventure bikes basically have the function of travel already built into it. So as long as you set a goal, you already have something beyond motorbike riding, even though it's also very important to not just go for the travel's sake, but go with a goal to achieve that the way is the goal at the end of the day. I remember I had a trip through the Balkans where at some point I just wanted to visit places and lost the main goal in a way, and that was the moment the trip kind of became dull. And in that way also, like, people who get themselves an adventure bike just to ride to the local Starbucks and like get a coffee there, I think have a more satisfying fulfillment in their brain when it comes to them riding motorbikes, simply because they do this thing beyond the form of transportation itself that then gives them fulfillment. And I think also no activity beyond motorbikes is like too low or anything. Like for example, a lot of people, I say, would look down on people who just ride motorbikes for the aesthetics and just for like to look cool and stuff. However, if you would be doing that, you can still go to like meetups, meet other people. It through that gets a really social dynamic to it. You meet a lot of other people. You see their bikes. You maybe get inspired what you want to change on your bike, and all of a sudden you end up in like customizing and making a value beyond the form of transportation of motorbike riding out of this thing. And I think that's really, really lovely. And I think really to avoid this whole like, oh yeah, I now go for motorbike riding, try it out for 2 to 3 years, and then it kind of gets dull and I lay it down again, which is like what so many people do. I think this is the way to kind of stick in motorbike riding. Also because like you can do different things. Like you can have a restoration project that you then end up riding, that you then have the pride of taking out every time. You can do a really big tour that you always wanted to do. There's so many things to do, and also like you can get creative, as you see here with the motorcycle surfboard rack. If you actually want to just combine motorbike riding and surfing, definitely check out the mount. I'm making it myself, and I'm putting the link down in the description and the pinned comment. Yeah, I hope you managed to get some value out of this video, to basically see what are the things you want to do with the form of transportation of motorbikes, and basically pick yourself something above motorbike riding that can then make this activity truly fulfilling for yourself. What is your opinion on this whole topic? Definitely leave it in the comments, and see you guys in the next video.